In Realm of the Mad God, the realm is the most fundamental part of the gameplay loop. Yet, in its current, untouched state, it has actually been contributing to the downfall of the game. However, there is hope on the horizon, and this may just be the most important update in Realm of the Mad God history. Realm of the Mad God is a game of eras. In 2012, the game was an unoptimized mess that ran rampant with exploits, and the majority of the player base played on their internet search browser using Adobe Flash Player. Despite this, for many players, the strong community, ease of access, and the unique gameplay made this era widely considered one of the golden ages of the game. Today, in 2023, the in-game content, revamped game engine, and incredible community knowledge make the game feel much more complete than it ever has before. This is not to say, though, that the game's past had been all sunshine and rainbows, as that is anything but the case. Had Biomes Studios not sold the game in 2015, well, this video, along with Realm, probably wouldn't exist. When Deca Games, the current owners, purchased Realm of the Mad God, it was as close as you can get to a dead game. But with a new owner, the community once again had a glimmer of hope for the future of the game. And since that day, Deca, along with the community, have kept Realm alive. However, after more than a decade, one thing has remained the exact same throughout the entire game's life, and that is the realm itself. In RotMG, the standard realm consists of a map pool of 14 preset worlds. This means that essentially nothing is randomly generated when it comes to world spawn and terrain, which in 2012 was no issue, as players had no real grasp on how big the realms were, and it was a rarity to ever have more than 10% of the map uncovered at any one time. Today, maps have not only been completely explored, but essentially solved. This alone is not a problem though, as generation like this is quite common in other MMOs and can lend itself to optimized gameplay. The problem with the realm today primarily stems from three main things: accessing dungeons, maxing stats, and power creep. All three of which the Realm Rework has the potential to solve. So real quickly, let's paint a picture. Currently, when a realm begins, there's a certain number of specific, predetermined enemies that need to be killed until the realm will close and Oryx will summon you to his castle. As you kill these predetermined enemies, events will occasionally spawn, some of which granting access to mid and late game dungeons. And here lies one of the core issues with the realm. In order to guarantee you get to run a specific in-game dungeon through the realm, it can take a good group up to 20 minutes to get the event boss to spawn, followed by another few minutes to travel to it, followed by another few minutes to kill it. So in order for a late game player to run a specific dungeon just 3 times, it could require over an hour of grinding. And if you wanted to run it with just people who knew how to do it, well, good luck. It's a completely public realm. Normally in the realm, you can teleport to other players to access areas that drop mid-tier dungeons. But if a realm doesn't already have players who've explored the center of the map, then you have to walk all the way there every time you complete a dungeon. Once upon a time, getting all 8 of your stats maxed was a really big deal. Nowadays though, getting 8/8 is easier, but also feels much more necessary. And unfortunately, the process to grind potions has become very stale despite it being much easier than ever before. Getting a character to 8/8 requires hours of grinding content that is relatively trivial, but also tedious to an experienced player. This is especially punishing to players trying to learn new, more difficult content, as a big part of learning content is, well, death, which inevitably leads to players repeating the cycle of maxing their characters that can eventually start to feel really repetitive because the meta revolves around running the same fastest dungeon over and over in order to max a stat quickly. And last but not least is power creep. The most difficult section of the realm is currently the Godlands, and as you can see on screen, with a somewhat decent character, it's pretty easy to just clean through large quantities of these enemies with little concern. Having the quote-unquote hardest area in the realm be little more than a pushover really makes grinding in the realm feel unrewarding. To even further back up this point, the event bosses I mentioned earlier used to drop items that could contend with some of the best equipment in the game. Nowadays though, a majority of their unique drops are either completely outclassed or only good in niche scenarios. These shortcomings have led to the core gameplay loop of Realm feeling very dry, and is one of the main reasons that Discords basically became a requirement to access some of the in-game content. The Shatters is the current most difficult dungeon in the game, and it can be accessed either by clearing a realm, killing the avatar, and then hoping the group you're playing with can help contribute, or you can buy a key and open it with a group of people organized by a Discord in just a couple of minutes. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory why Discord runs have become so popular. It takes less time to complete the dungeons, less time to farm for the dungeons, and the runs are higher quality overall because you're not dealing with randoms, which leads to a very elitist and excluding culture behind the game. But most players don't hold the philosophy that they want to keep other people out of their dungeons. They just want to be able to run things effectively, and if they're going to spend money to buy a key, they want it to be done well. With that being said, there is hope. The upcoming Realm rework is showing incredible promise for fixing some of these fundamental issues. But what does that look like? Well, this is what the new map is proposed to look like, with the colors indicating possibly the most important thing in the game's history: biomes. While a good deal of this is still speculative, it is confirmed that biomes will be divided into 3 main difficulties: Rookie, Adept, and Veteran. Rookie biomes will have content designed for brand new characters all the way up until they are level 20. The Adept biomes will focus much more on the mid-game and grinding your character to have maxed stats. For reference, this Adept section is stated as having an average difficulty similar to the current Godlands, which takes us to the Veteran difficulty section. It's impossible to know exactly what is awaiting with this Veteran section, but from everything announced so far, it sounds like these Veteran biomes are going to host content that is comparable to in-game dungeons, and I cannot stress how good this will be for the game. In a recent blog post, Deca said, quote, "This area is where players will commonly find things of epic dungeon difficulties and above. Additionally, in this region is where players will find exaltation encounters. This means that for the first time in Realm of the Mad God's history, it may be possible to consistently grind in-game content without having to buy keys." Alongside these new biomes being added, a new feature some of you may have seen called Power Level has recently been added to the game. Power Level is basically an indicator of a character's strength based on its stats combined with its gear. Currently, a brand new player with 2 hours could get their first level 20 and instantly get a quest for the hardest boss in the realm. For scale, this is a quest enemy a level 15 will currently get. And this is what they could be up against just 5 levels later with no improvements in their gear. This is not fun, this is bad game design. The game is literally telling new players to go run into an enemy that they stand 0 chance against. And Power Levels look to fix this, by giving players quests that scale based on actual strength of the character and not just on reaching level 20. Now, this next change is purely speculative, coming from me, but it is also possible that characters under a certain power level will not be able to enter certain biomes. And while this might be annoying for some, it would prevent new players from getting unfairly steamrolled, and also prevent under-geared characters from entering in-game dungeons that they couldn't actually contribute to. I'd like to hear your opinion on this idea in the comments though, as I think it would make the game more enjoyable for new players while also improving the quality of gameplay in veteran biomes. And while you're down there, you might as well leave a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content so far. Anyways, another issue I cited earlier was the inability to teleport unless there were already other players in an area. Now, there will be beacons that allow you to teleport without having to rely on others. Currently, players congregate to just a few servers within the game to bypass dealing with this small realm issue. But now, small realms will be a viable playstyle because you won't have to run all the way back to the center of the map just to access any form of worthwhile content. In turn, this will also help repopulate the dead servers because 50+ player realms will no longer be a necessity. Currently, to close the realm and access orcs, players must consciously commit 10 to 20 minutes doing legitimately trivial content like this. This is sad. Alternatively, you can do the content you want, but in turn, the realm will legitimately never progress. Thankfully though, along with the reworked map, all enemies killed will now contribute to closing the realm, allowing players to grind the content they actually want to do while also contributing to closing the realm. These changes are only the things that directly address the current problems. There's additional content being added on top of this as well. Biomes are now confirmed to have their own UT items, meaning that it is almost certain that there will be new special bosses to liven up each respective area. Instead of the events that currently spawn randomly throughout the realm, now special bosses will spawn regionally, scaling with the difficulty of their respective biomes. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with this rework is maxing. If nothing's done, remaxing characters will inevitably become a kind of stale and repetitive task again. As the most efficient ways are discovered, people will want to do it the most efficient way. This grind to max takes time, and after a while can become very non-engaging. This opens the door though for a brand new concept, a quest-based NPC inside of the realm. Rather than allowing the most efficient way to max a character fall to repeating the same dungeons over and over, we instead could incentivize players to do a variety of content. Now, what do I mean? With the new realm rework introducing beacons, players will now be able to teleport to different biomes as the beacons are discovered. At each beacon, an NPC could be added that gives region-specific quests that speed up maxing for completing certain dungeons. For example, if you wanted to increase your speed stat, currently the fastest way is to run snake pits over and over. However, if there was a quest to complete a snake pit, sprite world, and abyss that rewarded additional stat potions, it would incentivize running a variety of content while also being the most efficient way to max. This moves the power to the player. If they want to grind a single dungeon so they can try and get a specific item from it, they can. But if they just want to max their character as quick as possible, then the most efficient way to do so is by running a variety of content based on the quests provided. And since I know Deca likes to monetize things, I'll even give them an idea to do it healthily. With this quest NPC, they could monetize it in two non-destructive ways. First, by having the battle pass, you could get a little extra loot from each quest completion. Or second, you could have two separate quest lines provided by the NPC, one available to everyone, and an alternative one that is locked behind the battle pass, which could have slightly better rewards or just give you an alternative line of content to play. This model encourages people to pay money, which obviously Deca wants, but doesn't actually detract from the experience of free-to-play players. Additionally, this idea synergizes really well with the new combat power feature that we discussed earlier, and I think incentivizing players of all skill levels to run a variety of content makes the game much more approachable and replayable. The Realm rework is one of the most promising updates in the game's history. If done well, it has the potential to catapult the game into its healthiest era ever. But if done poorly, it could mean the writing is on the wall for this decade-old gem of a game. With Month of the Mad God approaching, and the Realm rework coming out not long after, this just might be the most exciting the future has ever looked for Realm of the Mad God. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.